say that he'd never been a member. The the final Nazi group he was a member of, the National Socialist Movement. I think the leader of that, somebody called Tony Williams, I think when Copeland was arrested, he became so frightened that he immediately dissolved the organisation, and I think he cooperated with the police and turned over his membership records to them, and in return for that, he was given a soft ride in the media documentaries that came out. So they admitted that he'd been a member, but obviously none of them said, that we know anything about him. One of the really frustrating things, and I think I might well ask Copeland, is he apparently said in his statement to the police, and it was also mentioned even in some of the media stuff, that a year before, or in 1998, he'd been to Poland for some military training. Well, you'd think that would be a very important line of inquiry for the police and for the media, but no, not interested. Not interested.
I had a guest on the show, Trevor Aronson, and he wrote a book called The Terror Factory, Inside the FBI's Manufactured War on Terrorism. And the theory of the case was, the theory of the book is that the FBI will infiltrate these groups, and then they'll catch a guy who's not too bright, little, mentally impaired, and they'll egg him on, and they'll even give him like phony bombs, phony equipment, stuff like that. Then they'll arrest him, and they make a big headline. Now, these groups are so heavily infiltrated. Have you explored that possibility, that he was sort of like an unwitting dupe of the intelligence agencies?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I think. And maybe because I want my life expectancy to continue, I've even got a possible name of who might have been involved. I definitely think so. I think that's how, if MI5 were to know about him and to be tailing him, then they'd have had to have been given some kind of human intelligence that this was something he was about to do, which fits with the gaps in a report of monitoring of his movements. It also fits in with that they're quite happy for him not to give evidence. So yeah, I definitely think that he would have been picked upon as a likely candidate by somebody who was. I would never. You say the terrorism factory. I mean, in other areas, like say for instance, say to do with the IRA in the past or whatever, most of the bombings they carried out were, done by themselves for their own motives. Many of these groups don't necessarily need somebody to push them to do things because they're already that way inclined. But as I've mentioned, the British far right hasn't really had much of a track record of doing those things. And at that time, electorally, the British National Party, interestingly, around the time of the nail bombing, was doing quite well electorally. They were to go on to have people elected to the European Parliament, as opposed to the British Parliament. So certainly there might be some people who might have thought that undermining the electoral prospects of such groups by having somebody carrying out violence might also be another subsidiary motive for doing so. Yeah.
Now, you've been investigating this story for quite some time now. Have you had any tips come in and things you've followed up on?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that we had was that after we first covered the story, somebody, a gay person who was on the police gay community consultative committee, then gave us sort of information, documents, minutes of the dealings that committee had with the police, and also their first-hand account how some key members of that committee were told by the police that on the day of the last bombing, the Soho bombing, he was being monitored by police. Well, given that, the official account says that his name was given on a list of suspects late on the Friday after the bombing, that would indicate that the police, that official story isn't true, and that the police or special branch or whatever actually had him under surveillance. So that information, that it's not just like my supposition. If that's what these, and interestingly, one of the three people who was shown this privileged access, because they didn't show it to all the committee, of the police footage of him being monitored. Well, there were three of them. One of them, when I rang him up and I traced him to his job in Newcastle, he was very frightened and slammed the phone down on me. The other one, still the editor of a magazine called Searchlight, which I've examined as being a front for the security services, that he should be given privileged access to information security service wanted isn't surprise. The third person, who was the leader, as well as being gay, she happened to be the leader of a council, Lambeth Council, previously. She noticed one of the articles on our website, the Copeland scandal summarised and updated, which is taken from issue 6 of the magazine. She noticed the article which mentioned about the footage having been shown to these people and foreknowledge and so on, and she actually sent an abusive and illiterate letter to us, to the magazine, complaining about this, that and the other. But one thing that she did not do is she didn't deal with the substance of the key claim that if they were shown footage of him being monitored on CCTV just before his trial, that was when they were shown it, then that indicated that the official story that they only found out about him after the bomb was untrue. She didn't deal with that point at all. She used the word libel, but she did not answer that question. So what she didn't do, therefore, is she didn't refute it. So therefore, I think the silence there is deafening, because if that had been totally untrue, then why didn't she say it? She just dealt with a load of other red herrings.
Now, clarify for me, the first two bombings were of ethnic minorities, and then the third one was a homosexual community.
Yeah. But of course, the thing to say about gay bars is because they are generally non-threatening, all kinds of people will go there.
Right.
Less likely to have violence and so on. So, but yeah, that's right. And of course, all of those three kind of targets. I mean, my gut feeling, and I think I was asked at the time, my gut feeling was after the first two, it'll probably be a Jewish target next. That was my gut feeling. No, I was obviously wrong. But all those three targets do fit within the parameters of neo-Nazi ideology. An interesting thing about the third one is that after the third bombing of the gay bar, the journalist, because I'd been on TV and I actually had an article on the bombings printed, and of all places, the Anfa Black Republican News, which was the Sinn Féin paper in Ireland. Because of that, the journalist who wrote the pink paper article saying MI5 warned gays to be on alert, he actually rang me up and he was questioning me about what did I know about the relationship between Combat 18, MI5, this, that and the other. And I said to him, are you planning to write about this? And he said, oh no. And there were, of course, 2 days later, his follow-up article, which really put him in it, said, yes, MI5 had, in other words, he repeated the thing, and he used it as a advertorial piece, trying to recruit gay people into MI5. But the very fact that a journalist who I've asked questions about, before I'd even asked questions about him, was actually ringing me up wanting to find out what I knew, as did another journalist called Graham McLagan. He didn't like what we wrote in issue. We do believe in right of reply to anybody, really. So anybody who's covered in the magazine, if they don't like what we've written about them, we'll happily print what they have to say. and then we'll answer it. And he didn't like what we wrote in issue number 3, which is the major article, and so he sent in a letter which didn't really add anything to it. Didn't really counter what we had to say. But if I were him, I would advise him. Our critics usually, and they're wise enough. I mean, in your kind of your kind of legal system, the notes in the borderland, when we cover somebody, one of the reasons why we don't come out very often is we don't just lay charges against people. I think we do what you might call a sort of a grand jury indictment. We just lay out all the evidence in great detail, including their answers, and anticipate them. And so if what we say about people is correct, then they're wise just to ignore us,
Very, very good. Okay, let's take a little commercial break. We're with Dr. Larry O'Hara. We've been talking about the 1999 London nail bombings. It's David Copeland. You can find Dr. O'Hara's work at Notes from the Borderland, borderland.co.uk, and you can order this and have it come in your mail there, and you can read it on an actual paper form, like the good old days. We'll be right back with. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also AwakeRadio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com. every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m.